Hello everyone. Welcome to another test drill lecture on the subject animal science. Let's start off with question number one. Which statement is not true? So we're looking for a statement that is not true or that is false or that is incorrect about animal whose testes or testes failed to descend into the scrotum. Letter A, both cryptorchid and monorchid could be used as breeders. Letter B, a cryptorchid is likely to be sterile. Letter C, a monarchid is fertile. Or letter B, both cryptorchid and monarchid produce testosterone. So again, we're looking for the statement that is incorrect, that is false, about yung hayop daw natin, about animals whose testes or testes failed to descend into the scrotum. And if we're looking at the choices, there are some technical terms that we need to know or at least to understand. So for example, yung concept ng cryptorchidism. What is cryptorchidism? Cryptorchidism, ito yung isang kondisyon na sakit ng hayop or abnormality sa male animals natin kung saan one or both testes failed to descend into the scrotum. So yung kanilang testes, which is the primary organ that reproduces and contains the sperm, did not descend to the scrotum. So hindi pumunta sa kanyang hindi bumaba yung kanyang testes sa bayag ng hayop natin. Okay? Now, kapag isa lang yung testes na hindi bumaba, hindi nag-descend, ang tawag natin doon unilateral cryptorchidism. So unilateral means one testis did not descend, or we also call that as your monarchidism. Okay? So yun yung another term na nakita natin sa choice kanina. Now, kapag naman both testes did not descend from the abdominal space of the animal going to the scrotum, ang tawag naman doon, so it's bilateral cryptorchidism. So ang tawag mo sa mga hayop, sa male animal, na kung saan may isang functional testis lang sa scrotum nila, is monorchid. Okay? So doon natin nakuha yung terms na nasa choices, yung mga technical terms na nasa choices kanina. So isa-isahin natin yung mga choices to analyze kung alin ba sa mga statements na yon ang totoo, ang true, at ang false. Remember, what we are looking for is something that is false, something that is incorrect. So for this statement, both cryptorchid and monarchid produce testosterone. Is this a true or false statement? This is, in fact, a true statement. Why? Kasi whether yung testes mo bumaba sa scrotum or hindi, so whether isa or dalawang testes yan, yung male na hayop natin, nagpuproduce pa rin yan ng testosterone. And this testosterone influences yung secondary sexual characteristic and behavior that makes the animal a male animal. So this statement is true. Therefore, in terms of our question, this is not the correct answer. Kasi nga, true ito. Kaya ang hinahanap natin, yung false, yung incorrect. How about this? A monarchid is fertile. So is this a true or false statement? Technically, ang monarchid may isa siyang testes sa kanyang scrotum, tama? And generally, this is true. The animal is still fertile. Okay? And since may isa siyang testis na nag-descend sa kanyang scrotum, she can still produce sperm and therefore pwede pa siyang makabuntis ng hayop. However, it's important to note na kahit na uh, kahit na posible ang fertility, ang mga monarchid na hayop ay hindi ideal for breeding purposes. So again, the statement is, a monarchid is fertile. Is it a true or false statement? Ang sabi ko, it is generally true. So, correct itong statement na to. So, therefore, hindi ito yung hinahanap nating sagot base doon sa question. How about this? A cryptorchid is likely to be sterile. So, may possibility daw na yung ating cryptorchids, okay, or yung mga hayop na hindi bumaba yung isa or dalawang testes nila sa kanilang scrotum can be sterile or baog. So this statement is partly, yes, it is true. Again, ginamit niya yung word na likely. So yes, yung mga hayop na bilaterally cryptorchids, yung dalawa yung sa mga itlog nila, sa mga testes nila hindi bumaba sa scrotum, they're often sterile. Kasi iba yung temperature sa katawan ng hayop as compared doon sa scrotum ng hayop. Mas mainit kasi yung katawan ng hayop, and thus kapag nandun nagstay yung kanyang testes, hindi nagde-develop ng maayos yung mga sperm doon sa testes na hindi nag-descend sa scrotum. Okay? So yes, they are likely to be sterile. So that makes the statement correct. For unilateral cryptorchids naman, since isa lang naman yung hindi bumaba na testes sa kanilang scrotum, possible pa rin na fertile sila, but then possible rin na hindi rin functional yung bumaba na testes sa kanilang scrotum. So again, this statement is true kasi hindi naman siya nag-i-state ng absolute claim na ang cryptorchid ay hindi sterile. But rather, ang sinasabi niya, kapag ang hayop mo ay cryptorchid, most probably, so may malaki yung possibility, kumbaga, na ito ay magiging sterile. Therefore, this statement again is correct. At dahil correct itong statement na to, ito yung hinahanap nating sagot. The last statement, both cryptorchids and monorchids could be used as breeders. So, tama ba na kapag may hayop ka, hindi bumaba yung testes niya sa kanyang scrotum, pwede mo siyang gamitin as breeder? Now, if you are a rational animal breeder, you would not do that. Bakit? Kasi generally, itong abnormality na to, this is hereditary. And pwede yang maipasa-pasa sa kanilang magiging anak. And paano nalaman kung naipasa yung condition na to, yung cryptorchidism, lalo na yung bilateral cryptorchidism, sa mga hayop mo, na lalaki rin. So, ang ibig sabihin nun, hindi sila magkakaroon ng successful offspring in the future. So, ang mga cryptorchids and monorchids, hindi siya ginagamit for breeding purposes. So, this is a false statement. Therefore, base doon sa question, ito yung hinahanap nating sagot. So the answer is letter A. Both cryptorchidism and monorchid could be used as breeders. That is not a true statement. That is a false, incorrect statement about animals whose testes failed to descend into the scrotum. So let's move with question number 2. The start-digesting enzyme amylase is present in the saliva of some domestic animals. In which animals does the enzyme most? So the question is, una, describe niya yung starch-digesting enzyme which is called amylase na present daw ito sa saliva ng mga domestic animals. So tinatanong niya, saang hayop daw pinakamarami yung enzyme na amylase? Is it sa cat, sa pig, sa horse, or sa dog? So first off, we need to understand what is this? Let's understand amylase together. So an amylase is an enzyme sa katawan ng hayop. So lagay ko diyan, no, yung na matatagpuan either sa laway, so sa saliva, and matatagpuan rin siya sa pancreas ng mga hayop. But since we're talking about animal science here, amylase is an enzyme found in your animals that is used, ang pinaka-function niya is to break down starches, so starch or carbohydrates, into simple sugars such as maltose and glucose. So ang pinaka-purpose ng amylase is to transform your starch or to break down your starch into simple sugars like maltose or glucose. So ito ay very crucial sa stages of carbohydrate digestion. Okay? Now, given na ito yung definition ng amylase, mostly ang kanyang function is to break down starches or simple sugars or carbohydrates, then it is logical to think na yung hayop na mas maraming carbohydrate yung diet niya malamang mas marami ang production ng amylase, salivary amylase sa kanyang katawan. Tama? Yes. So different animals have evolved with varying levels of different salivary amylase based doon sa diet nila. So nakabase yung amount of salivary amylase, nakabase yung amount ng salivary amylase sa kung ano yung diet ng hayop. So isa-isahin natin. Ano ba ang diet, for example, ng ating cat? Right? Now cats, mostly they are carnivores. Wala ka pa naman siguro nakikitang cat na kumakain ng gulay. Pwede siguro kapag pilitin natin. Meaning, yung kanilang diet, it is consists primarily of meat. Okay? So as a result, so meat hindi carbohydrates. As a result, kung mataas ang meat consumption nila or most of their diet is meat, ibig sabihin yan, mababa yung kinukonsume nilang carbohydrates. Kaya naman, mababa rin ang amylase activity sa kanilang saliva. Because cats do not typically consume starch-rich foods, then therefore mababa rin yung amylase sa kanilang laway. O how about dogs? Dogs are somehow similar to cats. Although dogs are may pagka-omnivore, pwede mo siyang pakainin ng gulay, they still lean towards being carnivorous. Okay? So therefore, yung amylase din sa kanilang saliva, hindi rin ganun karami. It is low because they eat more meat than carbohydrates. So given that, dog rin is not the correct answer. So how about our horse? Ang horses natin, they are what? Do they eat meat? No, horses eat what? They eat grass, they eat vegetables, they eat plants. So they are herbivores, tama? So ang kanilang primary consumption is forage and grains. So wala rin silang may amylase sa kanilang saliva, pero hindi rin ganun kadami kasi ang mga vegetables naman, hindi yan, ang mga forage and grains, yung mga grass, hindi naman yan mayaman sa carbohydrates. Okay? So, actually, ang marami sa horse is yung tinatawag nating pancreatic amylase. Kasi yun mismo, yung pancreatic amylase na yun yung tumutulong sa pag-digest ng fiber doon sa forage and grains na kinakain ng horses. So, therefore, horse is not the correct answer as well. So we are now left with the correct answer, which is pig. So bakit tama ang pigs? Because pigs, they are basically omnivores. So they consume a varied diet. So medyo iba-iba yung diet nila. And most importantly, pagdating sa baboy, mahalaga yung sa kanila ang starch or carbohydrates. So dahil malakas silang kumain ng starch or carbohydrates, yung kanilang saliva, it contains a substantial amount of amylase. So maraming amount of salivary amylase para tulungan sila na i-break down yung carbohydrates habang nasa bunganga pa lang nila. So habang nasa bunganga pa lang nila yung carbohydrates, nagsisimula na yung preliminary digestion ng carbohydrates para kapag naikain na nila at pumunta sa kanilang stomach and into the intestines, mas madali na lang yung processing ng mga carbohydrates na to going into simple sugars. Kaya ang tamang sagot, yes, it is pig. Sila sa apat na choices na to, ang may pinakamataas na salivary amylase. Okay. Next question. Broiler starter ration should contain blank protein. So how many percent of protein does your broiler starter ration should have? So the correct answer here is 19%. So 19% ang tamang sagot. So 19% of protein dapat yung laman ng starter ration na pinapakain natin sa ating mga meat type chicken or broiler chickens. Okay? So meron kasi tayong three types of feed sa ating 4-hour broiler chicken. So para sa mga manok natin na ang main purpose nila ay meat, mayroon tayong 3 types of feed na pinapakain sa kanila. So una dyan yung ating starter feeds. ang timing ng pagpapakain ng starter feeds is from 0 to 3 weeks ng ating manok or ng ating broiler. So typically, ang crude protein yan is around 19 to 22%. So dito kasi, pinakabata pa yung ating manok, kailangan niya ng mataas na protein diet para masuportahan yung rapid growth and development na kanyang muscles and tissues. Okay? Now, after 3 weeks, around 3 to 6 weeks, grower naman yung feeds na pinapakain na natin sa kanila. And that would contain around 18 to 20% of crude protein. So mapapansin natin, yung crude protein is slightly lower than your starter feeds, but it's still high kasi kailangan pa rin yan ng iyong chicken para mapabilis yung kanyang paglaki. However, yung kanyang metabolic rate at this time medyo nakokontrol na, namomodulate na or normalize na. Kaya hindi na niya ganun kailangan ng ng protein percent, ng protein sa diet niya na masyadong malaki. So after 6 weeks, going to its slaughtering, finisher feeds naman yung pinapakain natin sa hayop, and that would be around 16 to 18% of crude protein. So itong diet na to, it is now to maximize weight gain and improve feed efficiency as the bird reach its market weight. So the protein content here is lower, pero yung energy content niyan, dahil mababa yung protein, mataas yung kanyang energy content to ensure na efficient yung growth and efficient rin yung fat deposition sa katawan ng ating chickens. Okay? Now, ano pa yung reason kung bakit, kung mapapansin natin, bumababa yung protein levels habang tumatanda yung ating manok? So, unang-unang reason here is the efficiency of nutrient utilization. Kasi yung mga broilers natin, habang lumalaki sila, yung kanilang digestive system nagiging mas efficient at breaking down and utilizing nutrients. So, ibig sabihin nun, they don't need as much protein to support growth as they did when they are younger. So, kapag mas bata sila, yes, they need more protein kasi hindi pa ganun ka-efficient yung kanilang katawan. Pero kapag tumanda na sila, they need less and less of protein because their body now is efficient at breaking down yung nutrients na kinakain nila. Pangalawang reason kung bakit nagdi-decrease yung level of protein is cost efficiency, right? Kasi yung mga protein sources natin like soybean, fish meal, mahal yung mga yan. So they are expensive components of poultry feed. Kaya kailangan nababawasan siya kasi kapag pinapakain lang tayo ng pakain sa kanila ng protein na pataas yung level, hindi naman nang nagagamit yan ng hayop and para ka lang nagsusunog ng pera. Mahal na nga yung protein, pinapakain mo sa hayop mo marami pa, hindi nga nagagamit ng katawan nila efficiently, nagsasayang ka lang basically ng pera. And number 3 reason is to balance the energy and protein. Yung mga matatandang broilers natin or yung mga broilers natin na malapit ng ma-slaughter, mas mataas ang requirement nila for energy. So that is for carbohydrates para mag-weight gain sila and for the maintenance of their body. So kapag binabawasan natin yung protein para magdagdag ng carbohydrates and fats, mas na-optimize natin yung paglaki ng mga manok na ito. So these are 3 primary reasons kung bakit we are decreasing yung protein levels habang tumatanda yung ating manok. Question number 4? Yeah, I think this is 4. Which among of the following is a meat breed of ducks? Nahanap natin, alin dyan, yung breed ng duck na ang purpose niya is for meat production. Is it Indian Runner, New Hampshire, Berkshire, or Muscovy duck? So isa-isahin natin yung mga choices na to. Una, si Indian Runner. So Indian Runner looks like this. And Indian Runner is unique, very unique. Kasi kung mapapansin natin, very upright yung kanilang posture. Diba? So para na rin silang, kumbaga, matikas yung kanilang paninin, yung kanilang pagtayo, right? And because of this physiological characteristic, engine runners are good for egg production. Okay? So for egg production pala ang engine runner. So ang hinahanap natin sa question is a duck for meat production. So engine runner now is not the correct answer. How about New Hampshire? Well, New Hampshire is not a breed of duck. It is actually a breed of chicken. Okay? It is known for its dual purpose, ang New Hampshire chicken. So, pwede siya sa duck, pwede siya sa meat, pwede rin siya sa egg. How about yung other choice, Berkshire? Berkshire is not a breed of duck, it is a breed of pig. So, therefore, this is again not the right answer as well. So, we are now left with choice D, Muscovy duck. And tama naman, ang isang Muscovy duck, these are used primarily for meat production. Okay, so it's a breed of duck that is used for meat production. Okay. Question number 5. This is a technique wherein a young embryo is collected from a donor female parent and then implanted into the uterus of a recipient. So medyo technical ulit to. Again, technical definition ulit to. Ito daw isang technique kung saan yung embryo. So it is yung embryo ng isang female parent. I am assuming this is already fertilized. So a fertilized embryo is collected to a female parent and then ini-implant siya sa uterus ng isang recipient. So meron kang mga surrogate parents, surrogate mothers na tumatanggap ng embryo na yon. Ano daw tawag sa technique na ito? Do we call this as multiple ovulation and embryo transfer or MOET? Do we call this as artificial insemination or AI? Or in vitro fertilization, IVF, or cryopreservation? So in order for us to know what the answer is, we need to know what are the definitions or ano ba yung dinidescribe ng mga choices na nandito. Unahin natin with cryopreservation. So what is cryopreservation? With the word cryo and preservation, cryopreservation means preserving things, or in our case, preserving embryo, sperm, or eggs for future use by freezing it. So that's cryopreservation. So if i-freeze natin yung embryos, sperms, or eggs for future use. So this choice does not involve the process of collecting the embryo and implanting it to other mothers. So hindi ito yung tamang sagot, or implanting it to other female parent animal. So cryopreservation is not the right answer. How about in vitro fertilization? So ang in vitro fertilization, kukunin mo yung egg sa katawan na hayop natin, ng female na hayop natin, and then ilalagay mo siya sa parang test tube, so in vitro, and then doon mo i-insert yung ating sperm to fertilize it, and then yung fertilized egg na yun ay ililipat naman na natin sa uterus nung nanay na pinagkuhanan rin natin nung egg na yon. So, yun yung process ng IVF or in vitro fertilization. Now, IVF, yes, may embryo transfer na nangyayari. But it does not typically describe yung process ng collecting an embryo from one donor female parent and implanting them to another female parent. Again, yung hinahanap natin is someone na is the process kung saan kinukuha natin yung fertilized egg from a donor parent and then ililipat natin sa mga surrogate mothers. Ang in vitro fertilization is basically kukunin natin yung egg ng female parent, ilalagay natin sa lab, i-fertilize natin gamit yung sperm ng male parent, and then ibabalik natin doon sa pinagkuhanan natin ng egg. Yun ang in vitro fertilization. Ang hinahanap natin is yung process kung saan from a donor female parent, kukunin natin yung fertilized egg and then ililipat natin sa mga surrogate mothers. So in vitro fertilization is, although malapit-lapit na, hindi yung tamang sagot. How about AI? So, ang artificial insemination, I know a lot of you are familiar with this. It involves directly inserting yung semen doon sa reproductive tract ng ating babaeng hayop para ma-fertilize yung babaeng hayop natin. So, ito ay opposite ng natural copulation ng hayop or natural mating para mabuntis yung ating babaeng hayop. Artificial, so kukuha tayo ng tube, kukolektahin natin yung sperm ng male na animal, and then i-insert natin yun dun sa reproductive tract ng female para mabuntis siya. So this choice do not involve embryo collection or transfer. Therefore, this is not the right answer. So we are now left with letter A, di ba? Yung tinatawag nating multiple ovulation embryo transfer. So this method, okay, involves inducing a donor female to produce multiple eggs. So, ano ba yung start ng process ng multiple ovulation? Mayroon kang superior female parent. So, in our case, superior female trait yung babaeng parent natin. So, in our case, kumare, superior yung trait nung cow na to. Ang gagawin natin, bibigyan natin yan ng chemical or ng hormone para magkaroon siya ng tinatawag nating super ovulation. So hormones like FSH, itinuturok natin sa hayop or pinapakain para mag-super ovulate siya. Kumbaga, super ovulation means hindi lang isang egg yung mapuproduce nung cow na ito, pero multiple eggs at around the range of 6 to 8 eggs at a time. After that, we will fertilize those eggs. So either be natural mating yan or artificial insemination. Basta ang mangyayari is, if-fertilize natin yung mga egg na lumabas or na-produce ng ating superior female parent. After fertilization, kukunin natin yung mga egg sa hayop na yan, sa ating female donor parent, and ililipat natin sa kanilang mga surrogate mothers. So, yung process na to, ang tawag natin dyan, multiple ovulation embryo transfer. Kung bakit siya naging multiple ovulation? Because of the super ovulation process that we've described earlier. Ang purpose kasi ng MOET, ang purpose niya is para yung mga babaeng hayop na may superior quality, mas mabilis yung dispersal ng kanilang lahi. So the purpose is pag paparamihin natin yung itlog nila, ipapa-fertilize natin yon, and ipapa-carry natin yung fertilized egg sa mga surrogate mothers para mas mabilis yung pagpapalawig, okay, or yung pagpaparami ng magandang lahi. So the correct answer is letter A. A technique wherein a young embryo is collected from a donor female parent and then implanted into the uterus of a recipient is called multiple ovulation and embryo transfer.